So, Dr. Jordan Peterson wants to establish an alternative to the World Economic Forum. Unlike the WEF, Peterson's proposal would be pro-human and pro-growth. Darren, what do you think about this?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, Jess, that the World Economic Forum it has its conference in Davos, but Jordan Peterson is actually choosing to launch his alternative that you've just described there, an alternative to the central planners that you speak of, these sort of creepy controllers, technocratic titans that all go off to Davos in their private jets. But Jordan Peterson is launching this alternative, not from Washington, not from Texas, not his home of Canada, but here in Britain. He's going to do it in London. Now, that group will get together and discuss 6 key questions of the year, it could be, or of the moment, to actually come up with solutions, as you say, to the issues facing the world that are pro-human flourishing, that are pro-growth, that are pro-family, that are pro-free speech, that are anti-tech censorship. It's absolutely music to my ears, Jess. I can't wait for it to start because London, Britain, needs it like you wouldn't believe. One of the ideas for a question that's proposed in the Daily Wire article, who Jordan Peterson now has a show with, well, the question goes something like energy and resources at the lowest possible cost as rapidly as possible to the largest number of people around the globe. Now, that to me is fantastic. It's what the World Economic Forum, right, with its name, should actually be a proponent of. Because right now, the idea seems to be that the West ought to say no to poor countries and developing countries that, don't worry. That's what the West says. Don't worry whatsoever. You don't need to industrialize like we in the West did. You don't need to have access to cheap energy, reliable sources of energy that will allow you to catch up with us guys. We're going to actually pay you subsidies to install unreliable renewables, even though the technology isn't there yet to store the power when the wind isn't blowing and the sun ain't shining. And actually, that holds back these economies from being able to flourish. And I think it's sick, Jess. I really do. I think it's perverse. And some said Brexit actually was Empire 2.0. Remember that? Well, I tell you what, Jess, I actually view these people, the World Economic Forum central planners that seek to control and plan the earth, as seekers of empire, not we Brexiteers.
I mean, the World Economic Forum's agenda is an agenda against the poor. As Dr. Peterson said, who exactly are you planning on getting rid of? Because these policies that they want to put forward, are going to impact the poorest of society. We've seen that even in our own country, in Britain, with the energy price rises, which is impacting the poorest of society.
Maybe the planet should only have 500 million people on it, or a billion, in relative poverty, or 2 billion barely scraping by, because otherwise they're going to be wrecking everything and, controlled by some top-down authority that makes bloody well sure that no one's consuming too much. And so when I look at ideas like that first assumption, the planet has too many people on it, it's like, I don't like to hear people say that, because when I hear that, I think, okay, buddy, who exactly are you thinking about getting rid of? Oh, well, it's not like that. It's like, yeah, it's like that.
It has to be like that.
It is absolutely like that.
I don't think the WEF are in, their layer, going, how do I get rid of the poorest of society? I don't think that's the case. But their policies have the impacts. It's like what Milton Friedman said. Judge people based on not their intentions, but the consequences of their actions. And I think these policies have terrible consequences.
Absolutely. And actually, I find the whole rhetoric around depopulation to be deeply, deeply anti-human and actually incredibly creepy. This idea that actually we need to cull the human population in order to save the planet, because teenage truant Greta Thunberg and a few others who keep coming up with these predictions, Jess, saying the world is going to end. I've heard now that the world is going to end more times than I've heard from the Labour Party, that the NHS is going to end come tomorrow. This is really, really sinister stuff. I actually want to see an outfit like that proposed by Dr. Peterson that actually says that human flourishing is the way to go, that actually we can come up with the solutions, as we have done throughout our history, to the problems that we face. I am pro-human. I'm optimism. pro-optimism. I'm optimistic about the future of humanity, and I can't wait for an outfit that agrees with me, Jess.